Okay, we are going to do a kernel upgrade. Yeah, let me do that. Go into Gentoo sources. Okay, I just did back-to-back. Gentoo released 4.14.82 and then 4.14.83, and I'm in there. I'll do eselect profile list. I'm under Gentoo stable. Yeah, it's the AMD 17.0 stable release. But yeah, 4.14.82 and 4.14.83 were the last two stable releases. And I'm just sort of doing this for fun. I'm going to upgrade to, and it's still under their stable release, so yeah, but it's 4.19.0. And I checked, it's not under experimental. Of course, I suppose it could be. I don't know. It's an experiment in any sense for me right now. So the first thing we're going to do to switch over, let's change directories into user. We'll go into user, source, Linux. And this is actually the directory that the current kernel is symlinked to. And this is the directory that we compile the kernel in. Actually, if we go back a directory and we do a long list, you'll see that Linux right now is symlinked to Linux 4.14.83, and that is the kernel I'm currently using. Like if you do a uname -r, it'll show you. So what we're going to do is, the first thing we're going to do is copy our configuration over in case anything does go wrong, and I like to just copy it to my home directory. If you leave it in this symlinked directory, it will be overwritten. So I copy config, and we'll copy that to, we're going to rename it kernel-config, and we're going to, let's do another dash there. And we'll put that uname -r command in, and that way it'll name it. So we know which kernel configuration we have. Oops, and it's not conf, it's config. Okay, there we go. Yeah, if you do a list all, you'll see, like these are the configurations I was working on by date. But if you look at the dot files in here, this dot config is the configuration that it uses. Like if you were to happen to put, like to do any kind of configurations, like make menu config. Oops, let me spell it right. Make menu config, and that's actually bringing up that's opening with the current configuration, the .config. So this is the file that we're working with. First thing we're going to do though is we're going to, well, let's look at eselect. Eselect kernel list. Okay. And this is the kernel that I just downloaded. So we're going to switch over to that. Do sudo. Kernel. Set to. I have one too many E's. Alright, and then just to check to make sure it is. And we can even go back a directory and do a long list. And we'll see that, yeah, all that, when you do eselect kernel set command, all that does is it creates the symlink to Linux, the Linux directory under user source Linux. So now that we're back in this directory, what we're going to do is we're going to copy the actual configuration from our boot file. From our boot file, we have this configuration, and that's the configuration that goes with the kernel we're currently using. Because after we compile our kernel in user source Linux, it copies it over into the boot directory, and then from there we configure Grub to pick up our kernel. So what we're going to do is we're going to copy this configuration. Since we changed the symlink, we're going to copy the configuration from boot over to our new kernel. So we're going to do copy boot. We're going to do config. That works. Over into user source Linux .config. Oops, and we want to use sudo to do that. Okay, there we go. So now that our configuration is copied over, there's two options that we can use. The first one here is it's make old default config, but it's old def config, and this sets all the new options to the default recommended status is how it's listed. This next option, make silentoldconfig, this option will go through all the new changes. In this case, going from 4.14.83 to 4.19.0, it'll go through all the new configurations between those two kernels for the new kernel, and it'll ask you each option, and you'll see, like, this is just an example, but you'll see like the capital Y, and that would mean that that yes would be the default recommended status if it's capitalized, and then no, and then a module. I'm just gonna do this one. Okay, so that adjusted the configuration that we just copied over from boot. And now it's set up for our new kernel. And after I do that, these are two important steps here. You want to do sudo make modules prepare. This is kind of a short. And you also want to check to see if emerge has any updates on. Oops. I'll just type that in. Yeah, dash A is the same as dash ask. But this will go through and check and see if there are any updates in any of the modules. And if there are any updated modules, our package manager will pull them in. And after we do that, this next string of commands is actually what it takes to compile the kernel. And it's three separate commands here, and they're separated by the two ampersands, which I guess in computer science kind of acts like the logical operator, to where like the second command wouldn't take place if the first command wasn't successful. It would kind of stop, to where, as logical operators, both have to evaluate to true for it to pass on to the next set of instructions. It does the same thing. So some people will do them separate. They'll do make and then make modules install, then make install. I just kind of like to run them all together. Didn't seem to copy. Okay, there we go. And now this will take some time. At least it should take some time. And I'll probably fast forward the video. It'll take 20 minutes on my end. Okay, we're just about finished. Yep. Alright, this last step here is just all it does is, well, if we list our boot directory now, we'll see that the kernel we just compiled is now in the boot directory. And this command here will configure grub to check. It looks in the boot directory and then it configures the kernel into the grub boot menu. It just configures grub. So we do that next. And you can see it found it. And you can also see it found the old kernel, which if you go into advanced, if something does go wrong with this, with the new kernel, you can, if you have it set up right, normally you can go into advanced and then boot into your old kernel. But in any case, I still copy the configuration over to my home directory in case something does go wrong. The first step you would do, if something did go wrong and say you didn't have the backup option of going into advanced and in your grub menu and picking up your old kernel, what you would do, whether you're booting up into like a TTY, or you have to change root into your Gentoo partition, what you would do, the first step you would do is just sudo eselect kernel. Well, I'll do the list first, but you would go from that and you would set to your old kernel. And then after you set to your old kernel, and it's symlinked into this directory, your user source Linux directory, your next step would be to copy the configuration that we copied to our home directory. So you would just copy kernel. Oops, forgot the kernel. And in this case it would be 83. Okay, and then you would copy that to user source Linux .config. And after you copied the configuration over, you would just run this string of commands again. And depending on your computer, your RAM, your processor, like for me, like I said, it takes about 20 minutes to run this command. Now, you can make, like, my processor has 4 threads, so I could actually run, as my first step, sudo make -j and -j5, sudo make -j5, and that would utilize all 4 threads of my processor, and it would complete a lot quicker. I just wanted to make everything a little simpler, but it's not too bad. I mean, like I said, if you have any trouble, just convert back to your original configuration. And that's about it. If you have any questions, hit me up. Good luck. Peace out.